Welcome to another edition of the Family Church Podcast, here sponsored by FBC Irondale. And this is going to be a very interesting edition of this podcast. It is the Doug and Shane Takeover edition. I'm going to turn it over to them as they are taking over this podcast.
We're live.
Live. All right.
We're live. Wherever you're at, this is live. I'm going to say
All
that
right.
on everyone.
So during your sermons, we've heard you talk about how you've coached before, but did you ever play any sports?
Yes, I played basketball. Um, Played basketball. Played a little bit of golf in high school, and I was even worse then than I am now, if you can imagine that. Yeah, basketball. I was always kind of a basketball nerd. Just average player. Always loved it. Hung out with my coach a lot. Scouted a lot. Knew that I wanted to coach it. Um, not a great athlete or anything like that. Just loved the game. Loved being a part of it. Always been a big fan of the game, watching it. But I've always also followed the Cardinals, uh, and then actually the Rams in football until they left, and then I really got into the Chiefs because I'm a big time homer. Unlike some people, I root for home teams above everybody else, so I wouldn't like root for some team in Buffalo or
Right.
anything like
They'll,
that.
they'll be in Kansas in a year or two anyway. So.
Yeah,
I
no
hope
doubt.
not.
I was thinking while watching that game, I was thinking after all these years, it's still in Buffalo, New York. It's still an open stadium.
Yeah,
They haven't put a roof on that place yet.
yeah. Remember when they had to take all the snow out a couple
Yeah,
years ago?
yeah.
That was one of the times where the Chiefs beat them in the playoffs. I can't remember which one.
And that makes
I
makes
love how he
football
says it.
awesome.
Yeah,
When
I
you
love
got
how
to
he-
bring
Did
snow shovels to shovel out the stadium.
Right. I love how he
that's
says
awesome.
it with a straight face
Yeah.
too.
A few years ago, we went on, I think it was Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, and my whole family, we went, two kids and their spouses and our spouse and girlfriend, and we went to Arrowhead, and it was that when it was so cold, and we
Right.
thought we were prepared, and
You
yeah,
weren't.
we didn't make it. I would have stuck it out. I really would have. I
Right.
think the fellas probably would have. Um,
Well, you
but
voluntarily took your shirt off. I don't know what that was
wasn't
about.
quite there,
Yeah.
no, but we could have probably got a better seat had I done that, kinda cleared
Right.
out part of the stadium and
Yeah.
eased on down, but yeah, we tried all the warmers and everything, and
Right.
it was cold. It was really cold,
Yeah.
so we wound up listening to the game on the way back home, but
Naturally.
still, we did have good barbecue along the
Hey,
way, KC
that's
barbecue.
what counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shane's question led me into a question I don't have wrote down. How did you get started into coaching once you got into, your first years of teaching or whatever? And then when did you start coaching? And was it a volunteer basis on your end? Or did somebody go, we need Steve to coach?
So I actually started before I started teaching.
Okay.
So as soon as I got into college, I was hired as a student assistant, which is basically a glorified manager, but you do get some other experiences, and so I was able to work under a guy. It's actually a Hall of Famer, Tom Barr, and a guy that coaches Division 1 now, Robert Guster. He coaches Division 1 out in San Antonio,
Hmm.
and so I got to learn from those guys. And Robert was very young then too, well, not that far out of college. And then Tom was down towards the end of his tenure there, but yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, and so I was able to kind of follow those guys around and scout and see how that works at the college level. And I learned a lot by doing that, and so that's where I started. And then about a year later, I actually was hired under another guy that's actually a Hall of Famer now, Pete McBride, who was at Eminence. That's before he'd won state championships, but he won a couple state championships later on,
Hmm.
and so I learned a lot from him as well. And so I was his assistant, and got to
Right.
coach at every other level, and then wound up being a head coach at my home school in Winona.
Right. Okay. I figured you probably did like little league and t-ball and stuff like that all the way up, probably.
Oh yeah, yeah, for my own kids,
Right.
especially a little bit. My youngest brother, I
Yeah.
helped with that a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And as a head coach, did you any big championships or any
We
accolades?
we did. We had pretty good run there, and we did win one district championship. Went to the quarterfinals that year. Lost on the last second shot to go to the final four. Got beat by two, and but it was a very good team. Had a good experience. We also won three conference championships. We went undefeated in the conference regular season 3 years in a row. Uh, Won the conference tournament during that time. So we had a good run, had, good kids, obviously, you gotta
Yeah,
have that, good kids
right.
and good sport, and yeah, so we had a pretty good success there. We won, we won 100 games in just over 5 years, so that's pretty good.
That seems like I don't know a lot about all that, but that seems like a lot.
Yeah, that means you got a lot of good talents. What that
Right,
means.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right. Coaching had nothing to do with
not much. Just
it.
don't get in their way. Just don't get
Right?
in their way, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that transitions me into another question as far as like your kids and stuff. Being a father and a pastor and a coach to your son and daughter, um, what was the most difficult with them in that setting? And was there a time you worked godly first with them? How did you and them handle that?
So they probably handled it better than I did most of the time, but there was a lot of pressure on them. It seemed like, whether it be, a lot of times with being an administrator, they're getting messages from their friends. Are we going to have school tomorrow? It might snow, or decisions made,
Right.
or people assuming that they're getting
Yeah.
advantages that most of the time they're not. Probably it was the other way around.
Sure.
I was probably not fair more times to them than otherwise because I didn't want anybody saying the things they were going to say anyway
Yeah.
that it's just because of who they are or whatnot. They probably had more pressure on them, more eyes on them as far as their decision making, character choices. Being a pastor's kid for sure,
Right.
and then at times, I was probably a very typical dad.
Yeah.
I would get mad at them and yell at them and probably be overboard sometimes for sure. Uh, I don't, I certainly wasn't always perfect by any means, and
Yeah.
that's probably a tough thing is that while everybody else sees what's on the court and on the pulpit, uh,
Hmm.
as their kids, they see all your faults as well,
Right. Right.
and where you do fall short, make mistakes, and above anyone else, your kids and wife, they see you're just a man.
Right.
And,
They say they
even though they might have a few good things to say along the way, they also know the faults and
right.
the
They
shortcomings,
see
so
when dad stubs his pinky toe on the coffee table. They see
yeah,
that moment.
they see those moments. Yeah, yeah, and flip the coffee table upside down
Right.
and kick something across the living room. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I'm that guy. Don't
Right.
really struggle so much with the language side of things, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'll throw a good fit every now and again.
You got to have that. That's how they know to still be scared.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
And that brings me into my next question, which would be as a father and as a pastor, if you could give like one piece of advice to dads, what's one thing you should teach your kids or a lesson your kids should learn?
Well, number one is put God first in all things, in the good and the bad. Put God first, um, and then I think the second thing is to be real with them. My kids are still young adults, but we always tried to be real with them. My son talked about that a little bit in the
Hmm.
podcast. We didn't put on a facade or try to pretend like we didn't have struggles or
Right.
battles. Our kids pretty well they know who we are. They're kind of learning what that means as adults right now.
Yeah. Probably
Um,
really relating.
yeah,
I've noticed that
probably more so,
into
and
my
as the
later
older they
years.
get, probably the more so they will understand. Which I think we all do that with our parents. Things that as kids, uh, we seen one way, and then as we get to be adults, we start to understand a little bit. Uh, some of the things that we thought were so crazy make more sense the older we get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I
Mm.
think that's something we kind of all do. I think
Right.
my kids are kind of getting to that level where they're starting to understand more of those things.
Right. Our big thing growing up Sunday after church, we all went to the grocery store, and this was back when you could fill up a grocery cart for 100, and a half. But and now it'd take you probably 400 or 500 to fill one,
Yeah,
properly. And because like we go to Country Mart, they always had the 4 24 packs of soda, or
yeah,
whatever for like 20 bucks or whatever it was. The best choice.
yeah,
So I but that meant when we went grocery shopping, especially when my dad was home, because he was an over the road trucker for all my life, still is. But um, when we went to the grocery store, especially when he was home, we didn't eat out that week.
yeah,
But that was because now I know, they had the $200 for the groceries, but they didn't have the extra, 20, 40 bucks it took to go eat out
yeah,
after church either. You know what I mean? That was it until, my dad was an independent. So, his money came, I'm sure you've heard this, his money came on like a com check.
yeah,
And so we had to wait for the next one of those or whatever. Not that we we never hurt. We always had what we needed, not
Yeah,
always what we wanted, kind of a thing. But now
yeah,
I relate to that more. It's like, ooh, it's in a week. I really want LTAP, but I ain't got it.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I bet your kids got to. It sounds like see that as I got to see it, and now
Yeah.
they're relating to it as they're getting older too.
So I was talking to somebody about this last week, and I don't remember who it was, but um, I grew up with a family of 5 kids. My
Wow.
dad was a truck driver.
Yeah.
My mom school teacher. They worked different jobs on the way. A lot of times extra jobs. We kind of had times where we had looking back where we were doing really well, and
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
times where it was more of a struggle. But as a kid, I didn't really notice the difference that much. In
Right.
hindsight, I kind of can point out some things, but it really didn't matter a whole lot. One of the funny things I remember is there was a place that we could go to the movies, and it was free refills on everything.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
kids we'd get a soda and a popcorn, and mom would run back and forth and refill it the whole movie. So I
Right.
don't think
Yeah.
she ever watched the movie,
Yeah. 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 And
So
then you fill it
so
up right
take
before the movie's over, so you can take it home.
take it home. You bet. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Credits are on mom. One more refill. But
Right, yeah, I
yeah,
need one more
yeah.
for sure. Which, yeah, which kinda, leads into my next point of, what has been the hardest, most difficult trial of being a pastor and a boss, teacher, administrator, whatever, between church and school? What has been, what you would think, um, would be your hardest, you think? And it doesn't have to be
Uh,
up here at West County, or we can throw
yeah.
the whole school under the bus, whichever.
Probably just, uh, making sure the right amount of time devotion
Yeah,
to both, while also, not taking away from the family. That's
right.
something I've not always done a good job at.
Yeah,
I really strive to, but, I can definitely put more time in. Um, when the kids were in school, they were with me so much,
right.
so I would say it's probably my wife more so that would have that time neglect more than them, because a lot of times they would go with me wherever, uh, and I was there for the vast majority of their events. Sometimes we'd have to divide and conquer, but for the
Yeah,
most part, we were there.
yeah,
And so that time expenditure was tough. Something that I've not always done a good job of, and I'm still really working on, is empowering other people to do things,
yeah,
even when they would offer. I've been horrible about. Oh no, I appreciate the offer, but I'll do that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't. I
yeah.
don't want you to have to do that.
Right.
Sometimes I certainly found I've stolen their blessing,
Yeah,
uh, and also just put more on myself,
right.
which meant at times it didn't get done as well as it could have, and that's something I've done a better job of here, especially at church, and learning from others. And Sister Judy's really been a great influence,
Yeah,
impact in that way.
absolutely.
But still, I'm learning different things that I can do that and how to do it right. There's a
Yeah,
right way to do it, and in doing that, it really allows me to grow and do other things. And it's true at school too. Um, and I'm working on that for both things. But time management is huge, and that's always the struggle.
right.
Devoting the right amount of time, right amount of effort, not so much as an issue for me. I go 110 whatever I'm
Yeah, yeah,
doing,
for sure.
but yeah, just given the right time management where I'm not,
Yeah.
up all night on one or the other.
I've always said, yeah, it's crazy how you keep it all straight. And I think I asked you about it maybe a couple weeks ago, and you said I can't do it all.
Yeah,
So you're gonna upset somebody eventually down the
yeah,
road or whatever. And I don't know if any of them over there or over here tell you, but I have heard a lot in the background is the way you run the church, you run the school, the same. You're the same guy,
yeah.
no matter where you go. But I'm going to ask you. It wasn't wrote down, but it just came to me. Was there ever a time that God didn't come first, and maybe you lost your cool, like we all have done, and then maybe had to face somebody here or there, where you came from, and then you had to face somebody at church, like, oh gosh, I lost my ever loving mind on them for something, and now I got
Yeah,
to now I got to
yeah.
try to preach to them.
Yeah. I mean, I've certainly done that at times. Uh, sometimes when I feel like someone's really goofed up,
Yeah.
um, and sometimes I think that's needed,
Right.
and sometimes I might need that.
Yeah.
I've certainly took chewings before, sometimes for others, but
Right.
you definitely have needed sometimes of goofing up. Different people are motivated different ways, um, but I've definitely lost my cool and
Yeah.
had a a tone that I shouldn't have had, or
Sure.
and went back and apologized. I'll always apologize, even if I don't think I was in the wrong. If my tone
If you
was
feel like it,
bad, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'll go back. I don't know that I've ever had one where I've had somebody in my church that I have done that with
right.
exactly, but it didn't really matter.
Mhm.
People in general. Now, something I get sometimes is people will assume if kid or a an adult is part of my church that I will treat them differently.
Right.
Um, and again, it kind of goes back a little bit like my own kids. I probably do treat them a little differently. I probably hold them a little higher
The other
standard,
way.
which is also unfair.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. But I do hear that every once in a while, not a lot, but every once in a while, someone will lead off with, I know they go to your church and I don't, or I know their
Yeah.
kid goes to your church and mine don't, but
Yeah.
and it really, if anything, I'm going to be a little harder on those people because I expect more out of
Yeah,
them. But I
exactly.
try not to do that either.
Of
But
course.
but if anything, that's the way it would go.
Right. I love that.
All right. So a while ago, you were talking about your wife not getting as much time with you. So whenever you started dating your wife, you weren't a preacher.
No.
So how did that transition go, and how did she handle that?
So
As
so the often told story initially was my grandmother asked her, "How would you like to be married to a preacher?" And she laughed,
Yeah.
and I always tell it, and it always gets a pretty big laugh when I say she's not laughing now.
Right.
But the reality of it is, so you guys have most people have heard the story of I really felt like I'd wasted my calling. That I was called to be a minister, but that time had passed me by. And I wasn't worthy of that call, and I just felt this guilt and had really got uh, in a strong place, honestly, with God, or I felt like I was at the time, and with my relationship with Him, my walk. And one Sunday, I just go and I kneel at the altar and I said, God, I don't know what it is, but I'll do anything to not feel this way.
Sure.
I'll do absolutely anything. And anyways, so God just as soon as I said it, and I really meant it,
Right.
God just took that weight off of me. And so I get up from the altar and church ends. I was the last one at the altar that day, and the pastor at the time comes up to me and says, "Steve, when are you going to preach for us?" And I said, "Whenever you want me to." And he said, "How about next Sunday?" And I said, "Okay." So I'm pumped. I'm
Right.
excited. And Delia didn't happen to go with me that day, and so I go home from
Married or
church.
just dating at the time? I'm sorry.
No, we were married at this
You
time. We
okay.
were married. We were young, but we were married.
Yeah.
And so I go home and I'm ready to tell her this. And she says, "How was church?" And I'm paraphrasing here. This probably isn't word for word, but something like this happened. Um, and I says, "Good. Had a really good service today." And she had kind of been offended by something. And she said, "Well," she said, "I'm glad you did." But she said, "I really don't care if I ever go back there." And that was one of those times I kinda referenced this morning,
Yeah.
and I was kinda like, "Oh." I don't even remember what I said after that, but I didn't tell her that I was gonna be preaching the next week. And so I start praying about it, like, "God, this makes no sense."
Yeah.
Okay, I know for sure, I'm 100% positive this is what you're calling me to do,
Yeah.
and but I can't do it like this.
Right. Right.
I need you. and
you got to sport.
and so uh I didn't wind up telling her. So she hears about it from someone else. I think it just kinda gets spread around, and she comes back and she said, "Are you preaching this coming Sunday night?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I am." I said, "I was gonna tell you, but you said this."
Right.
And she was like, "Oh." And she said, "Well," she said, "I told you a long time ago." She said, "I'll go wherever you go. I'll do whatever you do." And she said,
That's
I
huge.
I meant that then, I mean that now." And she has.
Yeah.
She
I
has.
just
It's
yeah.
I know it's not always been easy for her,
Right.
for sure, but she definitely has followed up on those words, and from
That's
that
huge.
moment on, I mean, God just has grown us both, and I've seen her grow into some of her own ministries and
Mhm.
being a massive part, of ours together and mine, so yeah, that's kinda how that got going,
Right.
and
I've come to love her, not probably near as much as you do, but,
I hope not.
yeah. Her and I share a common bond that we were talking about before I came in here of just, just lighting a fire under you,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
is she we talked on the podcast you and I did. I was when I first come here I thought another member of the church was your wife.
Oh, no.
But because the other member was so involved, I'm like,
Yeah,
that's gotta be his wife. And we could probably edit this out because she's probably gonna hate me. But and then when Ashley pointed out, she's like, "That's the preacher's wife." I'm like, I judged the fire out of her. I was still young,
yeah, yeah,
in being here and in faith and all that. And now it's a great story of how if you just go say hi,
yeah,
whatever. But I've come to love her so much. She's so sweet,
yeah.
and you both of you. But it's just funny. I was like, well, no, that one's got to be his wife.
Yeah.
Well, it
Well,
turns out,
she is so shy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
not once you get to know her, she'll
Right.
talk your leg off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
talking with her every Sunday
and
after church. We're
and
here another 10, 15 minutes.
yeah, but when initially she's not going to go in
No,
and
yeah,
she's never going to push into a conversation.
right.
In a crowd of people, I always want to float around and talk to as many as I can.
Yeah,
Whether I
yeah,
know them or not.
right.
And
And we
she's the
prefer to be in the front.
yeah, she's the
Yeah,
opposite of that.
yeah,
Now, again, once she gets to know people,
yeah,
and you look, this is our third year being here,
right.
and a lot of people are just now getting to know her just because of her shyness, backwardness. You almost have to have those moments
Hmm.
alone or very small group uh, for her to open up
Yeah.
and start to visit and get to know people.
the the
So,
women have really, really come to love her
oh
and
yeah, yeah,
enjoy talking with her because she's just so blunt and honest too.
yeah,
On top of that, you would think
yeah.
a shy person would be like,
Once she
man,
trusts you, she is.
yeah,
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 yeah. Early
yeah.
on, she's not going to say much,
No, but
and
it
she's so empathetic where I'm not.
right,
I just naturally do not, and I know that may sound odd coming from a minister, where I
right,
feel like sometimes I should be more empathetic for sure, but naturally I'm not. I don't notice when people are frustrated with me,
yeah.
tones or anything.
Well,
She's
because
very
we're so
sensitive to
happy.
those things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How could they be mad at us?
yeah, and so she sometimes has to tell me that,
Yeah,
or the feelings, or sometimes I also don't feel the hurts the way she does,
yeah,
uh, and so she balances me there. I'd like to think that works a little bit both ways,
yeah.
but she certainly balances me there and gives me an empathy that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Right. Yeah. It's incredible. Um, Not to sit here and you know get on a big ramp. How was being a young parent? I mean, all of us know, any
Mhm.
outsiders. I mean, anybody that's probably going to listen to this knows. But how was being a young parent trying to preach with a wife partner that didn't grow up in a Christian home? How was that? How did that? I mean, obviously, it ultimately affected your decision making. I guess up until the point which you said she'd follow you anywhere. Up to the
Yeah.
point still she really gave in and really went full force like she is now.
Yeah. So our kids were very, very young at that point,
Sure.
for one. But I also say this: like Delia didn't grow up in a household where they were at church every time the doors were open.
Right.
She did have, Christianity and strong faith certainly was and is in her family
Okay.
and surrounded. So she did have the core of that.
Right.
It wasn't like she didn't believe in God
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that, or that. There's certainly very strong Christians around her and in her family,
Right.
and they're believers. They just I was raised in a family where you're in church every time the doors are open,
If that bell's
and
ringing, you're
and
there.
she wasn't
Yeah.
that. But so really, as far as the beliefs thing,
Sure.
it
Okay.
wasn't the stretch like that she wasn't at all,
Right.
or was opposed to it
Sure.
at all. She had the same core beliefs. She just wasn't used to being in church every time the doors were open.
So,
Yeah.
as
So
a parent, once you had your kids, were they in school, in church every time doors were open? Were
yeah,
they? They
yeah,
were. They
yeah,
were. They were
yeah.
both in church every Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, we always went, and I don't know if early on it was every time the doors were open, but
It's hard
certainly,
once it's little to,
yeah,
to get
yeah,
them in. But
Yeah.
we always went. I doubt either one of them remember not being in church much, if any.
Right. Absolutely.
all right. So, we talked about your preaching, pastoring. What is the largest crowd you've ever
Mm.
preached to? Like we had
So
200 here, and I think we had 300 before over at the gym during one of the rallies we've had.
yeah, um, I have preached at like some conventions that I couldn't really tell you the number, but I mean, I would think, at 500 to 1,000, maybe more at those. I mean, they were in a big auditorium. Um, probably that, I guess. Um, that's the only thing I can remember. I couldn't tell you an exact number, but I have preached at a couple conventions where they were pretty large crowds. So,
Is there any difference in feeling going from here to there, like looking out at a sea of 500 to 1,000 versus looking out at 100 to 150?
not really. It's more so what's going on in the crowd. Um, if people are open and allowing the Spirit of God to move within them, uh, it really doesn't matter if it's 6 or 6,000. Um, it
Right.
doesn't make that big of a difference. I mean, a crowd that's on fire for God, um, that's a lot of where it's at.
It's one of the things
Sometimes,
like once you're there, he kind of takes over that
yeah,
place.
yeah, exactly,
We've all
yeah,
give our testimonies. Once you're up there, you kind of let go, and
Yeah.
when God's there, He takes over.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And the more you let go, the better it gets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that's kind of the thing. And as long
Right.
as you don't get in the way, and God God's allowed to move freely in that place, there's no hindrances,
Oh,
then
ain't
it
no
just
doubt.
goes.
Um, I would ask, what has been the hardest thing for you to do in a church, past or present? What is maybe the hardest moment or a
It's always when there's two opinions, especially when both opinions mean well
yeah,
and they're opposing.
right.
Whether that be anything, any kind of, whether it be change or just decision that has to be made. When you have two opinions of groups or individuals that you really respect,
Hmm.
and know they mean well,
Right.
and having to try to guide those decisions to a peaceful
Yeah.
end,
I kind of
that
feel
that's hard.
yeah.
If someone's coming in and they're causing, you hate to hurt anybody or
Hmm.
lose anyone uh, from your congregation. But if someone's causing disruption,
Yeah.
uh, then that's easy, certainly easier than when two people both really mean well, or two groups of
Right.
people really mean well, and then you're having to navigate that and kind of form your own opinion to guide it that way, and that's not always easy.
No, I can imagine it is. I know there's there's probably some of it at every church in the world, but I
Yeah,
know there's some topics of some things in here, that are going one way or going the other
yeah,
way. That's probably got to be tricky to navigate
yeah.
because you want to appease both, but you ultimately want to do what's on your heart, from God or
Yeah.
whatever.
I would say, and we're blessed because with our
Yeah,
leadership, our deacons and the workers,
for sure.
they want to grow. They want to grow the gospel. They want to grow individual. They want to see this church grow, and they put God first, and
Yeah.
that makes it easier. It doesn't mean you don't have some of those tough decisions, but it definitely makes it easier, and that's a huge blessing. Makes a big
Mhm.
difference for us.
Like when you
Absolutely.
think what's best for the church versus what's best for yourself or your what you
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think a
that's
lot of
right.
people twist that up when they're thinking. They think that they're whether they know it or not, maybe subconsciously they're talking, they think they're talking for the church because they think their opinion, I
Yeah,
guess, would be, and not anybody super specific here, so don't get targeted when you hear
right.
this, but there are there are some things, but yeah, that would be. I feel like somebody's like, well, I don't like that. That can't be right for the
Yeah.
church
I
because I
think
don't like
we
that.
we all think, and no matter what topic it is, when we're working within a group, we all feel like that many people agree with our opinion because
Right.
that's how we think.
Yeah.
And that's just something that we assume, and it's
Right.
not always the case. And sometimes some of us pick up on that easier than others when people disagree with us.
Yeah.
Um,
Me and my
and it
wife were just having a conversation today about something here, and I said, "Well, whether I like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's what God wants."
There you
So
go. Yeah.
I got to roll with
Yeah.
whatever until you know, until I'm okay with it or he appeases the situation, or you know
Yeah.
what I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. So it's not what I want,
Yeah, and
whether
that's
I
the
like it
thing,
or
when we
not.
we put God center and we let God guide, what's supposed to happen happens, and
Yeah.
and when we don't, then that's when it gets goofed. But
Right.
that's
And we
for
goof up a lot.
absolutely.
So, and on a lighter side, like what's one miracle or awesome thing that stands out to you in all your ministry? We went from you spoke out the word faithful 150,
Yeah.
and that it's been a weekly occurrence
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So,
that's
has there been any other big things that have stuck out over the last, all of your ministry?
so the way this lined up, as far as me coming here,
Hmm.
being called here, I will say, because, um, God lined that up.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've seen some healing miracles, some body healing miracles type thing, different ailments and things like that that's been amazing over the years. But as far and miracles people are seeking where they got the diagnosis of they're put on a timeline and then they get the miracle that they get to tell about. I've seen those kind of awesome miracles, and that's always awesome. But on a personal uh, level in ministry, what the way that God laid it out, for me to be here,
Mhm.
um, and then those things along the way, whether it be Randy and I were standing in the gym, uh, and I hadn't been here very long, a few months, and I said we're going to have a youth rally, back to school youth rally, and I think we can get 300 people here. And I remember him looking at me, and I said, I can just see it. And I just described to him what God laid on my heart, and it happened exactly that way, and we had over 300 there.
Ain't
And
that awesome?
then the other thing, I don't like talking about numbers. I don't want people to think the number on the board, and I'm very careful to talk about our attendance. If
Yeah.
somebody flatly asks me, I will tell them, but I try not to do that. I don't want them to think that that's what it's all about. It's more about what's going on in the number. But at the end of that church service a few months ago, I just felt like that was a thing, a goal we could obtain.
Mhm.
And I use the term faithful 150, meaning I knew we had more than 150 people that was a part of our church, but to have that faithful attendance
Mhm.
on a regular basis, and God just laid on my heart to speak it out, basically to pass that challenge on
Yeah.
to the congregation, and it's certainly been met. I
Yeah.
mean,
I think it
it
was
has,
received very well,
yeah,
and
immediately.
and
I
the
think we had 170 something the next week. So
mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
Huge week. Hunting kinda put a damper on this week.
Hunting
yeah,
and
yeah, but
other
it's
trips going on,
Yeah,
so
trips and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be there every week,
yeah.
but, we do what we can, and
Yeah,
people that can.
it means something to people, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of what has started happening for us is not so much continuing to add new people, but a lot of the ones that came a Sunday or two a month,
Yeah.
in the past, have started coming 3 or 4 Sundays a month,
Right,
and I
right.
think people instead of when they miss, they hate to miss.
Yeah, I
It's
know I
they
do.
don't want to. They
I
try to
didn't wanna
find
miss
a way.
today.
Yeah, yeah. I was a little surprised to see you today, and
Yeah.
so it was
I'll probably miss tonight, but I didn't wanna miss
yeah.
today, and I hated not being up there,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, we definitely
but
missed our drummer today.
and it got a lot of questions
Yeah.
that I had to delicately answer, you know?
Now you'll get a lot more. So why did Doug miss?
Miss
So
Judy
I'll
cracked me
just
up.
I'll just say private message to Doug. He can tell you
Yeah,
all about it.
she walked up, just kinda, like, got real close to me on the side. She said, "You doing okay?" I said, "Yeah, yeah,
she didn't
I'm
ask me this morning. How's
yeah,
Doug?
yeah,
Is he
I'm gonna
good?
be alright,"
Yeah,
she
minor procedure. He'll
yeah,
be good.
just very minor.
Very
Yeah, very we go on another hour about that. Uh, I'll lighten it up a little bit because you and I had just and we were so far apart, but I felt like we were there together in the same breath when we went to Elevation.
Yeah,
Wow, but what a time that was, and then the next day you text me, "We could do that."
yeah, yeah,
You talk about dreaming. I was thinking
yeah.
about that all day today. I was like,
Absolutely.
but I feel like I shared the same dream back, and I would love that. I really would have to probably become a better drummer, but how do you feel? Because there is obviously a noticeable difference. I've texted Shane a couple times, like he's on fire today.
Yeah.
How has it been since hearing one of your favorite preachers go off like he did live and in person? I feel like it's changed your style. How do you feel like it's changed?
I would say a certain amount. And it's funny because he's somebody I listen to every week.
Hmm.
There's some different ministers that I listen to about every week, and he's certainly one of them. And probably one of my favorite ones to listen to. I've always admired his style of doing things, and but in person, something that stuck out to me a little more um, is the way he engages the audience.
Hmm.
And I think always we can continue to learn. And I know he has people that impacts him that he looks to and kind of learns from. And I think we all have to just be who God's called us to be and
Right.
just preach and teach the word the way God's called us to do it. But um, I definitely it's something that really stuck out to me as far as being a hey, I'm getting to listen to a guy that does it well.
Yeah.
What can I learn from this aside from just having an awesome night of worship in
Yeah.
every way and
The other
every
Steve.
and everything they did? But yeah, the other my mother calls him the other Steve that preaches,
Yeah.
and she's probably the only person in the world that calls him the other Steve. But I do love it and it's funny. But anyway, yeah, that was something. The way that he engaged the audience in the word, uh, and didn't allow them to be passive to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so
he
that's something that I took away and have really prayed about a lot,
mhm.
and probably have definitely been able to implement a little more since
Yeah,
then.
it's
Yeah,
definitely noticeable.
yeah,
I like how too, if he says something, um, also impactful, he doesn't let it go.
yeah,
He did you hear me?
yeah, yeah,
I enjoy that too,
yeah,
especially when the band fires off with it too.
yeah,
Um, but there has been a good. I probably should have emphasized that a
yeah,
good noticeable difference uh, from where I'm sitting anyway.
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I think
in your style. Not that you're trying to be exactly like him, because I don't think anybody could, just because
yeah,
he's so awesome. But and you have your own style that's e- equally awesome. But I have noticed a good change since hearing it, and I
yeah.
enjoyed hearing it, and enjoy
Yeah, I
hearing
mean,
you every Sunday.
I really think that was something that just I definitely took away, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, as far as like my style and the way that I prepare and stuff really hasn't changed from that. But it's that I did take that engagement piece of,
yeah.
and I think it's been beneficial. Something I learned is beneficial and impactful to our
I
church.
feel like you're getting more feedback.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
for sure.
Have you ever done? I've never heard one from you, but have you ever done like one of those hellfire and brimstone, just rah rah sermons before?
Um,
I've never heard one for you. I'd be curious to see how that would
No,
come from you.
I wouldn't say so. That someone asked me a while back, like, "What style of preacher are you?" Someone that didn't come to our church, and they asked, "What style of preacher are you?" And that kind of hit me because I really never thought about that.
Yeah, we had that group text about that
yeah.
actually.
That had you jacked up for like a
Yeah.
It
week.
did, yeah. So
Yeah,
I asked around and stuff and got some different feedbacks and stuff. But um, I think that I'm certainly not one that's preaching, everybody's gonna be rich and give this much money in the offering, it's gonna come back all this, just
right.
in a flat sense like that at all. Um, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around that. But I'm not a hellfire brimstone guy either. That's trying to scare you straight all the time. Hell's a real place, and unfortunately, people go there. And but I just think, of course, I love preaching positivity, but
Mhm.
the realness of hell is there too. But as far as me sitting up there screaming at you for a full sermon, uh, telling you all the reasons you're going to go to hell, um, that's not really my style. I've heard some good messages like that,
Right.
for sure, and I'm not saying that I won't ever preach one that way, or maybe even that I haven't, but that's certainly not been the way that God's guided me, in recent years.
I think I remember one sermon you spoke. You said you're not going to preach on hell because you're not going there, and you don't want us to go there. So you're going to preach on heaven and the good, and
Yeah,
not you're going to not
yeah.
going to preach on hell because
Yeah,
that ain't where you're going.
and I'm not against preaching on hell at all, and I
Right.
mention it and reference it. But as far as like, you know, just I have not, and I would if God laid on my heart. And I
Yeah.
think the other part too, God knows what the people need,
Yeah.
um, and I think I get a lot of confirmations that I'm listening to His voice and what the people need, even when I don't know it.
Right.
Um, and I think people are receiving that. I think if our people got to the point they needed that, or if I was in front of a crowd uh, that needed that, God would lay it on my heart. He'd lay it out for me, and I would dig into it.
Right. Watch next week. He'll give you one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably so. Now that we brought it up, he'd be like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
watch
Yeah. Watch
this."
this.
Yeah,
face is just red, slamming his
yeah,
foot.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to get into one last question that's more so, and I'm sure you've seen it when I said these to you, more so personal for me. Uh, if you really wanted a specific person to teach in your building, how would you try to persuade them, other than the obvious that you're a funny, great nerd, dorky guy, to come work at your building? What sets you and your building apart? From and it doesn't have to be currently, um, for my personal reasons currently, but anywhere you've been.
And before you answer that, that could also go like in church too. Broke that.
Guys are
So if
breaking
you had one
microphones.
person, or you had someone, hey, this person here would be really great in the youth. This person here, I should really get this person
Yeah.
in this. How have you like persuaded them, along with
So
what they were saying?
honestly, I think it's the same either way, either thing, whether it be at church or at the school. Culture is everything. Culture is everything. So when say the West County School District, our culture is second to none. It's really
Yeah.
amazing. It really is. So I'm going to go ahead and recruit some teachers right now since you asked me that question. But the way the camaraderie there is
Yeah.
by the vast majority, uh, the way that people this guys, I know no one can see this. These guys have broken the microphone stand off the desk. They're now holding it on a swivel up here. So this is more what I expected for this podcast to be like. But maybe we'll fix that afterwards.
That's super
But
loose.
I wish
Jump.
you guys could see this. This is like some kind of sitcom action.
Shane's like a boom guy.
Yeah, he's like a boom mic now. But anyways, so the
Yes.
culture is amazing. Everyone that comes there recognize that the way that our kids are, the way that our kids interact with one another, uh,
Mhm.
our kids cheer for one another at a level that I have never seen. I feel like our staff cheers for one another, looks to help one another uh, at a level that I've never seen. Everybody wants to talk about academics being,
Right.
first and foremost, and I think achievements of any kind follow character.
Yeah.
High character leads to high achievement, and low character does just the opposite.
Right.
So we definitely have that high character in all places there at West County. We're extremely blessed with that. The faithful presence, whether it be the Jericho Walk that takes place to start
Mhm.
every year. We've got Bible Dogs, prayer pups,
Yeah.
strong FCA groups. A lot of very faithful Christian impact people.
A lot of kids.
Yeah, a ton of
Shout out Blaine
kids
Lashley.
talking about
Yeah.
Blaine. Podcast there last week, and
Right.
so all of those kind of things. Church, I would say much the same. So much of the culture was already here.
Mhm.
God's laid this vision to become the family church and back up the culture of what a family church is. But you can go back to this, like the first time I walked in the doors here. I had Charlie Caroline shaking hands with me and offering candy, and
Right.
and Al telling a joke,
Yeah.
and that's what people talk about. Not just those two, but the way you're embraced when you come in the doors
Absolutely.
here.
Mhm.
Um, this is the only church that I've ever been a part of that I didn't have to worry about having the "Hey, if somebody wears hats, let's not run them off" conversation.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm not saying that the church I've been a part of before has
Yeah. But
done
there
that. I'm
definitely are some.
exaggerating,
Yeah.
but I at least had somebody that would either say something to them or say something to me. And it's like, how about let's just let them go to church first, and
Right.
then if God wants to convict them of that, if that's a problem, let's let Him take care of it.
Yeah.
I understand respect and those kind of things, but more importantly than respect is heaven and
Mhm.
salvation and getting people in and giving them an opportunity to grow in Christ. And I just believe that there's a lot on all of us that God needs to fix, and if we allow Him to have a relationship with us that He longs to, those things will start getting better.
Right.
But culture is everything. Culture of engagement, involvement. That's massive,
Yeah.
and that's all grown at both places. And I think obviously you're a little more free to go into that on this side of things. It's definitely very present there at the school as well. And we're
Yeah.
blessed and in some ways very unique in that regard. But that's to me the key. The culture that fits and the culture that grows and continues to be what it needs to be.
Right. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I've heard, a lot of people say, same guy here, over there, great boss, all those things in the background. Hopefully they tell you some of those. But I don't think at West County the numbers are important, but I don't think the numbers are number one. I think it's, my wife went there and she's still friends with everybody she went to
Mhm.
school with. I I think that matters more over here at a school than and
Yeah.
then and then the numbers and all that falls in. But I
Yeah.
think what you said, I think I guess to sum it up in a short phrase, everybody getting along.
Yeah.
I think that matters more.
Yeah. Characters first. I mean, it
Yeah,
really is.
right.
Characters first, and that's what the culture's built on, and then it goes from there. And it really is. And no one's perfect. No group of people are perfect.
No,
We all have to continue to strive to get better. But yeah,
right.
that's a difference maker.
So that brings me to another one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So we're all three really good friends, and we're
No.
getting well, except for me and Doug.
Gotta come stand
Have
by
you
me.
have you
Even this.
had that relationship with people in as a pastor in other churches where you had just a group of guys that were just
Tight.
genuinely your friends?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've always had some people I was close with at church. I think I've certainly done a better job here of opening up, allowing people to be closer to me probably.
Mhm.
But I've always had good support, good people around me. Uh, people that really impacted me in a positive way. As far as the camaraderie and the time spent together outside of church, I probably definitely am able to do that more now
Yeah.
for various reasons.
Right.
Uh, the combination of I'm not coaching. My kids are grown.
Yeah.
Things like that. Definitely, and also more support in other ways around me. Um, here at church, people doing other things that I'm not having to do, which allows more time for fellowship, camaraderie.
Yeah.
That side of whether it be ministry, friendship. I think it all runs together. It's kind of like at school and here. I think I'm very blessed to be in a place that really supports me. As far as the school goes and what I do, they understand, they support it. And then on the other side, I think the church sees it works hand in hand. The opportunities, for people to know me, and whether it keeps them from church or gets them in church, one or the other, they know what they're getting into. Because I mean, I don't think that you would see much, if any, difference at all in me from the person I am in church, out on the street,
Right.
uh, or at school.
Well, there was that one time. No.
Yeah.
No, I grew up in another Baptist church where, the pastor was a full-time, for lack of better words, employee, if you will.
Yeah.
They lived in the parsonage and all that. Uh, I've never seen one have a second job, much less be a principal of an elementary school. For I'll ask another question just came up. Has that presented any uh maybe strife, or have they been like, as long as you balance it, everything's fine?
So I've never heard a word about it.
Yeah,
Nothing but positive.
sure.
I've never had any questions. Um, I try to be mindful
Yeah.
of it, but at the
And
same
they
time,
obviously knew that
they
you
kn-
were a
yeah
principal
yeah
first,
yeah they
because that's how they found you. But I
yeah
didn't know if that's any
yeah
presented any problems, I
yeah.
guess. Sorry not to cut
And
you off.
honestly, uh, when I first I came for an interview, and the superintendent at the time said to me, he said, "Steve, I hear you're a man of faith," and I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "You'd love it here."
That's awesome.
So that was my introduction
Yeah.
to West County School District. So yeah, it's I've never had any issues. I could see some places it probably would be.
Mhm.
Right.
Again, I understand how blessed and fortunate that I am to
Yeah.
be in the positions that I'm in with the support that I have.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very
Because
blessed.
either one's a full-time job. Like, if
Yeah,
we talked about
yeah,
that, if you just did everything with the
yeah.
church, you're busy.
But when I get Charlie on, and he'll be able to tell this story, but I remember, and I don't know if which one of us had the misunderstanding, but he said to me, uh, "So you're part time pastor, full time principal, or whatever, however he said it," and I said, "No, I'm full time at both."
Right, right.
And he had referenced that some time ago that I'd said that, and
Yeah,
now he kind of understands why I feel that way.
right.
And yeah, I definitely strive to be that. But
Yeah,
again, I've got more support as far as uh, people to help, more
yeah,
resources in that way than I've ever had,
yeah.
whether it be at church or at school, and that's a positive. And a lot of that, as it's not a knock on any place I've been before. A lot of that's my own doing as far as allowing people to grow and help,
Right.
around me. So
Are you ever tired? I
yeah,
mean, because you do so much, and
yeah,
like we said, if you did one or the other, you're
yeah.
busy.
I do. I get tired sometimes, but
Yeah,
I'm a little more mindful now about that than I've ever been. Of course, part of it is I'm getting older, so
yeah,
I notice it a little more.
right.
Um, but I do try to make sure I know I have to stay fresh. I don't want to be in front of you preaching a sermon that's half winded.
Yeah,
That's I don't want that. Whether it be for my family, for the church, for the school, I want to be able to give them 110%. So I certainly take time. Uh, take a day to rest, take times to rest, make sure I'm able to sleep good at night. Uh, those kind of things, and vacations. I take them very serious. I
heck
take
yeah,
real time away, real time of not thinking or having no focus on those things. God always stays central,
yeah.
but as far as I know, that time of refreshment is important too, and I understand that more all the time. It makes me better for everybody else.
That's probably a hot take. Hear a preacher say, "I check out."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, it doesn't really check out as in like, but because he's
Yeah,
still, like you said, God's still central and
yeah.
everything.
yeah,
We're still bugging him
Yeah,
on
yeah,
vacation,
yeah.
so
You can't reach him because he's on a
Yeah.
boat,
Right.
in the middle of the ocean
That's
somewhere.
But when
that's
he
the
gets
thing.
back in service,
Yes, yes, that is true. That's true. Yeah, play a little catch up then. But yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely that's a big uh, perk of that to me. I know I need that time to
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
kind of regroup,
you got to
refresh, and
reset.
and I come I'm back and hungry, and I know
Yeah.
that's important. Kind of have that. So,
Everybody needs to. I mean, you're not Superman.
yeah.
So when you're at home, like what's recharge at home look like? Just on the
So
couch watching TV, or
That's
so
a lot
yeah.
of sitting
So the
still.
funny thing, and my wife could tell you this 100%. So like if you ask me like what do I want to do for my birthday, and I want to stay home with nothing to do. Now, I'm not one that I'm not a napper. I can't sit for long periods of time. But what a good refreshing day looks like to me is either being on the side of the current river on cruise ship or being at the house and being able to kind of just do whatever I want. So like I'm probably going to sit down and watch whether it be a ball game or a series or a movie or whatever I'm watching and watch that, get up for a little bit, come back. I'll tinker like today. Today was a good day of rest for me.
Yeah.
I went home, got about to eat, sit down for a little bit. I went out, cleaned on the patio for a little bit. Helped deal with a couple of very small projects. Sat down for a little bit. I come back over here, worked on editing our previous
Yeah.
podcast. Went back over there for a little while. So that's kind of what rest looks like for me. It's in
Yeah.
spurts.
Right.
I don't do a lot of just down. I'm just not made that way.
Sure.
But as far as like when I'm getting a lot of chair time, that's what I always say. Like when
Yeah.
I start getting tired, I'll tell Dee, I'll be like, "Whew, I'm needing some chair time," and she knows. I mean, she knows
Yeah.
what I mean by that. Like
Yeah.
that's if I'm getting to sit in the chair some um, throughout the day, especially for any amount of time like I did today. Like that's good rest to me.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I'm actually getting to kick my feet up and relax,
Right.
and that's how I rest.
That works. I was gonna say because I've hung out with you at like houses.
Yeah,
You don't sit in one spot, that's for
yeah.
sure. And then you're usually up pacing behind everybody.
Yeah, 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 and that's yeah. I have a hard time sitting still.
Yeah.
That's not doesn't really matter where I am. Uh, I don't sit still very
You get a
good,
lot of
and
chair time at school? Like,
no,
what do
no.
you answer emails like once a day and then you're
That's probably my least favorite thing to do. What I desk time,
Yeah.
and desk
Yeah.
time is my least, and that's what again I'll say sometimes. Had to put in a lot of desk time today, but I'm caught up.
Right, yeah.
I'd way rather be out with kids doing
Walking around.
stuff. Um, I try to stay moving in the building. Uh, I like to interact with the kids, be in the classrooms,
Sure.
those kind of things. So I try to do that as much as possible. But there's a certain amount of paperwork and desk time that I have to
Yeah,
put
I'm
in.
sure there's a
But
boatload of
even
that.
that,
I can imagine.
I do
Yeah.
it. I do it in spurts.
Right.
Like I'll sit down, try to. Now, once I start something, I try to finish it, unless it's a huge project.
Yeah.
If it's I like to sit down, knock it out. Okay, go do something else. Come back, sit down,
Right.
knock it out. So yeah, that's kind of how I
Like,
do that, which actually works really good in a school setting. That's kind of how it is.
yeah.
So uh, that that the principal's job itself fits me very very well because of that.
Yeah.
And much like here, like I don't have to sit down at church much.
No.
That's
And
so
it's okay if you're not.
Yeah,
Like,
Especially
that's
when
right.
you're
people's
singing
not.
now. You're up for all four songs.
Yeah.
That's optional. That's optional.
It is optional. Uh,
But
um,
yeah, I just
are
lost
you out of questions?
I had one. I lost
Yeah,
it.
I had one
lost it.
too. What are we at?
I'd say we're
What time wise?
Yeah.
We're at 53 minutes.
That
That's
ain't
pretty
bad.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
ain't
under an
bad.
hour though. But
Oh, that's what it was. So like you say you sit down down here. So you sit down and you knock out, if you have work to do, you'll knock it out. So, your sermons are, PowerPoint. You can see you put a lot into them. Can you sit down and knock that out in a setting, or is that over the course of a week? You're
I
taking
usually
chunks of
put those together on my phone while I'm walking or waiting or at nighttime.
Walking, waiting, where?
Well, I might be walking up the hallway. I might be walking through
Just if
Walmart. I
something hits
might,
you.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
jot it
Okay.
down because
And
So you
so,
don't sit
as far
down.
as them actually, like the slides you see, most of that happens before school, after school, or at night.
Right.
Uh, but every once in a while, if I'm walking down the hallway and something hits me, I'll make a note of. It's wherever I am, I'll make a
Yeah.
note of it. But I work a lot on my phone too, just for school, like email. If I'm just responding to emails, a lot of times I'll walk up and down the hallway and do that because I don't have to sit.
Hey,
And
you look
so,
like you're a crazy
yeah,
person.
surprising
oh
you can
yeah,
get two
yeah.
phones.
But
Surprising you
Yeah.
can pass your
but
phone.
Right.
yeah,
But like Ashley, she checks her email when she wakes up in the morning and then at the end of school. Other than that, don't email her because you ain't getting a response.
Yeah.
You know, but I lost my train of thought
So
again.
talking about putting sermons together and stuff. Most
Yeah,
of the time
yeah. When do
they
you?
start
Yeah,
with
that was it.
they most times start with a thought. Usually I'm got ideas that I'm working on for weeks, and then they kind of come together the week of or week
Yeah.
before.
So you don't sit down and
Um,
you're like, all right, give it to
no, now I've had
me.
times where it's like, it's getting late in the week and it really hasn't come together, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, God, what's the word for the people? Give
There
me the
you,
word for the people. Um,
that's a good question. What's the latest you've ever wrapped up a sermon like that you're gonna give on Sunday?
well, I
Because
mean,
I know ideas come to you as
I've
you're
definitely
going,
had
but
some that I thought were done, and then Sunday morning make changes to.
yeah,
I've definitely had that,
right.
and then get up there and preach, and it goes a total different way.
Yeah.
But I've had that for sure. So I guess all the way up, I've probably there's a few times I've made changes in between, um, Sunday school and church a few times. But as far as like just not having a sermon ready to go and trying to put something together type thing,
Yeah.
I'm sure that I've done that on a Saturday, not anytime recently.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say,
Deacons are listening.
yeah, no, I mean seriously, there's nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes we need that,
Yeah.
because we're totally dependent, uh,
For sure.
on God in that way. I mean, I've had times when I didn't know I was going to preach the next day, and all of a sudden I get a call and some opportunity happens, and yeah, and I'm saying, God, what's the word for people I don't know?
Yeah.
Which I don't need to because He knows everybody better than I do anyway. But
Right.
sometimes those are even better sermons. That's one reason why I don't use notes. What you see up is what I see. I've studied it out all week. I have tons of notes in my phone, but
You just got it all right.
I'm not looking. I just try to prepare and just allow the Spirit to guide me. I used to use notes and stuff like that, and I just felt like I'd stick to those notes rather than just allowing the Spirit to have freedom. It become just like a
Yeah,
checklist,
absolutely.
and so I try to just put scriptures, maybe a few hot points that I think are
Yeah.
good, some facts and stuff
Right.
up, and just kind of use that to kind of guide throughout. But ultimately, yeah, I
I
just
know
try to prep.
exactly what you're talking about. I think I gave Shane the the note on it when I did my testimony. I
Yeah,
didn't realize how far the pulpit was from my
yeah,
eyes.
yeah,
So everything that I had wrote out and all my secondary notes that I typed it out, and then all my
yeah,
secondary notes I wrote out, I couldn't read
yeah,
without like either bringing the paper to me or looking
yeah,
down. And I was trying to keep a good flow of it because I
yeah,
knew there was a lot to try to
yeah,
pack in all there. So it was just all. I mean, it's my life story, so I do know it all. But it
right.
was like a lot of it was from the hip, and I was going back through looking at my notes. I was like, well, I didn't say that.
I
I didn't
don't.
say
I know
that.
some practice. I've talked to some practice their sermons and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't ever do that.
You don't ever shoot
Uh,
it in the mirror.
no.
See how
No,
goofy you
I
look.
try to think on it a lot. I look at it every single day, usually multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Just what my notes are, pray about it. Usually, as far as like the slides and stuff, I start putting those together the week of
Yeah.
more times than not. Sometimes I'll have those at least started weeks ahead of time, but usually is when it really comes to like the designs and stuff you're
Yeah.
seeing is kind of the week of. I started doing that several years ago, just because I just think one having scriptures up there,
Yeah.
giving somebody something kinda helps hold attention, some of
Right.
those kind of things.
The only time I've seen you shoot from the hip, and I don't think I've told you this, it you didn't know you had children's message
Yep,
one
that
day,
happened one day,
and I
yeah.
seen you pull out your phone and you just went to the Bible
Verse of the
app
day, yeah.
and you went to the verse of the day. And the only reason I knew you just pulled it out of thin air was because I'd read it
That
on
day.
my way here, and I
Yeah,
was like, "Well, that sucker."
yeah. Yeah, I usually put a lot of time into prepping for
Yeah,
whatever, I
absolutely,
try to prep, and, yeah, that particular day, and we of course, we
and you
have it.
killed
I
it.
mean, I put it in the bulletin myself, but I just totally forgot that
Yeah,
it was my
airballed it.
day until and I think I was like, "Whose children's message today?" "Oh, it's me.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
let's roll," and I just pulled up a scripture and
yeah,
done it.
and let it rip,
So,
and it was a
yeah,
good one. And
yeah,
I was
yeah, it
like,
worked out. Yeah,
he
sometimes
didn't
God
know."
just likes to remind you that you're not as important as you think you are.
Yeah,
So,
that's facts.
What is your like? Obviously, you read the Bible every day. What do you read? Like, so do you start like in Genesis and you work your way to Revelations, or do you just I think I'll read Matthew today, or I think I'll read Ruth today, or
no, usually, so I always read, the Bible app verse of the day, the verseoftheday.com verse of the day. I read those devotionals every day, and then aside from that, usually I'm studying something in particular, like a
Mhm.
certain topic or certain groups of scriptures, maybe certain biblical stories or concepts. And so I probably read more like to get context for what I'm preparing for most of the time, whether it be this week or in the future, or something that people have questioned me about, have asked me about, and I want to, give them a good thorough answer and research scriptures, things like that. So most time it's like that. I don't right now at least I don't do a lot of book by book reading or anything
Right.
like that.
No particular like
It's
study
more
book.
topical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you. All right, off the hip, favorite Bible verse. Go.
Well, I would have always said Romans 3:23 for all of sin, falling short of the glory of God, just because it's just another one of those reminders of
Yeah.
we're all broken pieces,
Right.
and it's amazing because that scripture speaks to victory. The
Yeah.
fact that we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, we're, the only perfect one is the only one that holds us together, and just reminding of that, like we all know we're broken, but understanding that that's okay because of Christ
Mhm.
is so massive. So that's probably the first one that comes to mind, and
Nice.
has for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. For you, what's your favorite then? Off the hip.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm
Man, man.
I I can't do that. I'm not. I'm still too young in the faith. I don't know enough off the top of my heart other than what everybody knows or what most everybody should know. John 3:16. So I don't. I should know more, and I don't. I think I said this the other night because I'm sure you got one. You just looked it up too, didn't you?
I couldn't
Oh
cheater.
man, set up question. Well, let's hear it. Let's hear
So,
what it is.
what was it?
well, I couldn't remember if it was 13:16 or 16:13. It was
Right.
First Corinthians 16:13 would be my favorite. Be strong, stand firm in the faith, act like a man, let all
Yeah.
you be done in love.
Okay.
That was mine, but
Yeah.
I just want
I,
to put you on the
I,
spot for one.
I can't. I'm not good enough yet. I can't do it. I don't
Always-
have one. I'm sure I have one. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. There's got to be a good Psalms or a Proverbs or
There's
something
There
something
you
in
go.
there. Yeah, there's got to be a good one. Well, I think have we hit them all, Shane?
I think we hit them all and then some more.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Well, hey, these
got any for
podcasts
us?
they're getting longer each time. We've
Yeah.
got yours is going to be dropping probably tomorrow.
Right.
We're gonna have to get Shano on one sometime soon.
Yeah.
And man, these are fun. I'm
This is a good
enjoying a
time.
great time.
Questions for
And
us?
now I'm gonna
Are you?
save. I've already questioned you down, and I'm gonna hit Shane pretty good. And I'll ask this one though.
Okay.
What was your favorite part of service this morning?
Ooh. When you basically your topic or talking about just because you have a dream doesn't mean that it was God given, and just because God gave you a dream and it didn't work out the way you planned it doesn't mean it was wrong.
That's good.
Okay, so mine, the message was great,
Yeah.
but so for those who weren't here this morning, a good half of our band wasn't there,
Right.
Yeah.
and I still think in the spirit was there in the
Yeah.
music because I heard because the first 2 or 3 songs Hannah's mic wasn't working very
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and but the
And I don't
rest of
think
the church.
Dawson's was on.
With the rest of the church, was carrying that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
still sounded great.
It was still good.
We had the situation a few weeks ago. It's probably been a few months ago. Uh, Something happened and the song stopped. I don't remember if it was in the wrong key or something.
Yeah.
And the
Was
whole
that last week?
church. No, that's been a few weeks ago.
Okay.
The whole church
Just took it
sung
over.
like the rest of the
Yeah.
first verse.
Yeah.
And that was pretty awesome. But I'm not sure it wasn't Amazing Grace, but I can't remember for sure. I bet Corey could tell us. But
Yeah. Probably.
so but something I'm glad you said what you said, Shane, because a lot of times I think when I ask that or what's your favorite part of the service or whatever, they think I want them to tell me what their favorite part of my sermon was.
Right.
Which if that's the most impactful, wonderful, and I'm sure that happens sometimes. But you wouldn't believe how many times the things I hear the most about a service wasn't the sermon.
Mm-hmm.
It was someone that said a prayer,
Mm-hmm.
someone that sung a song, the way someone that sung, a few weeks ago when Dawson, when he really stepped up and sang
Yeah.
loud, boy, I heard a lot
Yeah.
about that. Different prayers that have been said, different things that, maybe just the greeting people get at the door, things like that.
Right.
All the parts matter so much. And I thought about doing that, like just a quick grab somebody after church and,
Mhm.
have that conversation. Hey, real quick, grab a
Hey.
mic, grab some headphones.
Right.
What was your favorite part of the service today?
Yeah.
And some of them might be like, "Well, that lifesaver Charlie gave me was the best." I
That
don't know,
was the best one I ever had,
but
yeah.
I would like to hear some of those
Just,
things.
just,
Just
have
I
Dilly
think
out
it
there
would
with the
encourage
camera
other
and
people.
Yeah,
microphone.
yeah. Yeah,
Just
you
do the
could
first
do
extra. Hey,
Yeah.
Doug, what's your favorite part of the service today? Just as they're coming down the stairs,
the ending.
Bean time. You gonna eat
Yeah,
supper now?
yeah.
don't know,
I will
but-
say, like, shout out to Charlie. I think having him being there at the door, shaking your hand, offering the
That
kids
means a
candy,
lot.
that's a big thing.
It really
is.
is.
It really is.
Whether he knows it or not, I
Yeah,
think it truly is.
He's too
And-
humble to know it. He
Yeah,
is. He's
he's
super humble.
such
We're
a-
gonna get him on a pod
We
sometime.
have to.
I'm getting him closer. So
We have to. He's avoiding. He's ducking you.
yeah,
He's-
it's hard to bully Charlie into things. It
It
just
ain't
is.
gonna happen.
It is. No, it's not.
Wilma's the only one that can.
And
Yeah,
we're past an hour here, so he doesn't have to fit it all in 20 minutes.
Well, I
'cause
think
we're
that's what's
past an
scaring
hour.
him. Yeah, like he's
Well,
realizing.
he told me the other night. He said, "Just how me and Wilma met take 30 minutes."
Yeah.
And I said, "But I want to hear it. I don't care if it takes 3 hours."
There's some good stories. Even if we have to do multiple parts, it'd be
Yeah,
good. But
yeah. You
everybody
could do a
would love
part
it.
1, part 2.
Yeah.
You know, the beginning, the middle, the end, or something like that. But let's do more of these,
All right.
or just us talking. You know, or
All
how's
right.
your
We'll
life?
see if we can
or,
if we can repair this microphone stand. You guys put it on. We'll
You're
see how that
you're gonna
goes.
need
I
some
think you just
3M
had some
tape.
tape.
They have
Yeah,
to have a little
there's
tape. All
the
right.
factory glue, the OEM glue there. No
Yeah.
bueno.
We'll work on it. We'll get
Yeah,
it. We'll get it.
Absolutely.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
has